Hello, and welcome to the Power of We podcast. I am your host, Nisa Brown Springman, and the founder of Ignite Your Life. Ignite is a women's holistic health, fitness, and lifestyle community. And for the past 17 years, I have had the honor, privilege, and blessing of being the recipient of the wisdom, strength, knowledge, encouragement, and inspiration that comes from being part of this incredible community. And I want you in on that. In Ignite, this is what we call the power of we. The power of we is the philosophy that Ignite is built upon, which is that two is better than one, and that God created us for community and to do life together. In this podcast, I will have conversations with a wide range of women over a wide range of topics that will provide you with wisdom, knowledge, inspiration, and encouragement. So get ready to be empowered, y'all, because here we go. Hey, welcome to the Power of We podcast. Everyone, this is Lynn Mangum. She is my friend and my coach and my wise counsel. And I am so glad to share you with everyone who's listening today because you have got a pretty amazing exercise that you are going to take me and take us through. And this is an exercise that you, as my coach, have been guiding me through for the last several years. And it really makes a difference. And we're approaching the beginning of a new year. And there's a way to do that. And you've taught me that. And so as we approach the new year, or as we approach the holidays, the first thing I just want to say to everyone listening is this is not the time to stop taking care of yourself. This is the time to put self-care into that highest gear. And so when I say that, I mean things like continuing to exercise, continuing to make your health, your wellness, your fitness a priority. And the way, in my mind, that looks is continuing to exercise, continuing to eat as healthy and clean as possible, even though we know that there are going to be all these delicious treats that we should absolutely enjoy and indulge in. But make sure we balance that out with also some clean, healthy, and holistic food. And then also sleep. Good 7 to 9 hours of sleep and hydration. You can't beat those four. You can't beat those four recommendations. They will win every single time. And then also, I just want to encourage, because the majority of those of you who are listening are female, and we love to say yes to everything all the time. In particular, during the holidays, I like to think we are Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus, and we like to throw parties and go to parties and be something to everyone during the holidays. But I would just like to offer a little bit of permission to say no, to set some strong boundaries around what is realistic for you to do, because the whole goal is to be able to enjoy a holiday season with our families. And we can't do that, or families and friends, the people we love, and we can't do that if we're not well. So one of those ways I believe we stay healthy and well is by setting strong boundaries. And if it's not when we're given the opportunity to say yes to something or we're invited, if your gut instinct isn't an initial strong yes, according to Brene Brown, that's if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. So it's okay to not say yes to everything during the holidays. So there's the health and fitness and wellness part of staying healthy and well throughout the holidays. There's the be realistic, set some strong boundaries. It's okay to say no throughout the holidays. And then there's this exercise, Martha Lynn, that you are going to share with us, your wisdom in your coaching that you have given me for the last several years that I want to share with everybody else, because I believe it makes a difference in the way we end. I've ended every year and started the year. So I'm going to toss the microphone over to you and let you go for it now.
Okay, thank you. Well, I love the reminder that you just gave me about this time of year. And it would seem that with all the busyness and the chaos, and that our well-being, our self-care is the first thing to go sometimes, especially as women. So I need to hear that reminder daily. I appreciate that. And this exercise is also part of what you're talking about in the self-care. that typically we move into the holidays and then the new year just like sliding into home base after we've rounded the bases about 500 times. And honestly, the fall tends to be a very busy time of year as well. So we have this, I would say, a lot of adrenaline pushing us through the fall and into the holidays, and we just keep going. And what I find, and why I think this exercise is so important, is that we will end up running into the new year, the new calendar year, a little bit empty, our tank's a little bit empty, and not a focused direction on what we want next. And we tend to find January just kind of the month of regrouping, regaining our energy, and sometimes not so focused. And by the time we really kind of come out of the fog, it's already March. So I like to be more intentional about not only how we end the year, but how we actually perceive and reflect on the year that we just completed in order to build what we would like to have for the next year. So this exercise is what I call a completion exercise. And it really comes from this philosophy of we can either choose to live our lives by default, meaning we just are in reaction to what's coming at us. And there's always something coming at us 100% all the time. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, by the way, right? We have things that we can have control over, and then we have things that we are reacting to, especially if we have family, if we have children. We are committed to serving our family and doing the things that they need to. So it's not always up to us. So if we're not careful, we find ourselves in reaction to versus choosing how we respond. And it's the distinction between creating our goals in our life, either from a place of default or creating it from a place of design.
And I would say during that default, when you were just describing that, I feel like that place of default for me has always been exhaustion. Mm-hmm. And doing it because like creating it out of, to your words earlier, which is chaos, and never giving myself a chance to pause and to really just consider, how do I want to design this next year? Anyway, I love, everybody listening is going to love this exercise because it is so not intuitive for us to do what you're about to coach us in doing. So sorry to interrupt. Just had that thought.
No, thank you for just reinforcing that, that as human beings, we live our lives. And if we're not conscious, it will be by default. If we're more conscious of it, it will be by design. Now, and that's what we're actually building up to. We're building up to, through this completion exercise, the ability to build and design what you say you would like to have happen next year, where it puts you back into the power, your own power, versus it happening to you. Mm-hmm. So let me describe how the completion exercise goes. And I get so tickled every year when I do this. And by the way, I have this on my calendar to do next week. I do it every year too. And it's just so eye-opening. After all these years I've been doing it, I'm just like, it blows my mind every time.
Agreed. So can I just pause real fast before?
Yes.
Because it would be great if you're listening and you have an opportunity to grab a piece of paper and a pen. And as Martha Lynn takes us through this exercise, you can actually be going through, and you will want to spend extra time doing this on your own and thinking more. Martha Lynn will get us started. And then also, this exercise requires us to be in a kind of a cozy spot and a non-distracted place where we can each be comfortable and comfortable, not distracted, cozy. So I just have on a very cozy sweatshirt, my bunny socks, my comfortable sweatpants. And so if you're not driving or walking or not listening in a grocery store, find yourself in a very comfortable space as Martha Lynn takes us through this exercise.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Nisa. And also I would say that consider that this exercise can be done in a couple of different sessions. whatever you have. You don't have to spend 2 hours or even a whole hour if you don't have that. You can break it up into smaller incremental times, whatever works best for your schedule. But I love the idea of being cozy. I certainly would have you do it where you're not disturbed, that you have that space to do this privately, quietly. And I always like the ritual of lighting a candle. There's something about the candlelight that just invites a space of openness and calmness. So once you get yourself all set up, right, in your cozy gear, and you have your tea or your water, or gosh, you might even want a glass of wine. That's fine too. Whatever works for you, right? So we start the completion exercise with thinking about, how can I complete this year? And the reason why we start with a completion is because we tend to take things into the new year that don't belong into the new year anymore. We tend to drag things with us. And if we're not contemplating and looking at clearly what happened over the year, it happens unconsciously. And then it gives us less room and less space to create a design for what's next, and then to even implement that design. So what we start with, believe this or not, is you actually start with looking at your calendar. However you manage your life, whether it's a paper calendar, whether it's a calendar on the internet, Google Calendar, or if you don't even keep a calendar, one way that I have found that really helps anchor what happens in the year is go look at your photo library.
It's unbelievable. It changes everything. To go back and look at that, well, you finish, and then I'm going to tell you about my experience with that. Go through this first part.
Yeah, so there's several ways that you can look at what happened over your year. Here's what I want to encourage you not to do. Do not use your memory or what you think happened this year. What I find is that whatever we have in between our head about our perception about the things that happened throughout the year, most of the time is inaccurate, and it's also not as positive.
Yeah, it's the story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah, it's the interpretation.
Which when you encouraged me to do this, so I was looking back at some of the annual exercises, or this exercise that I've been doing throughout the past couple of years. And in particular, the one that stood out to me was 2020, the year that the world turned upside down. And in my mind, it was the worst experience ever. All I could think about were all of just I don't even have to go through it. We all know, right? But being a mother of 2 children, they were out of school. It was chaos. We had to completely pivot in the business. It was just a lot of awful in my brain. But then when I went and looked back at my photos from 2020, oh my gosh, it told a completely different story.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that all those things that were really awful and originally stood out in my mind didn't exist, because they did. But I had already forgotten all of the other amazing, wonderful, fun things that did happen. So that was when it really rang true to me, like, holy cow, the stories we will tell ourselves and that we'll hang on to.
Totally. And and I laugh about it too, right? You can laugh at yourself going, whoa, wait a second. That's not really how it happened. So the calendar and the photos are your factual information, right? We want to leave this exercise up to what actually happened. And then we can talk about how we felt about what happened. But a lot of times we start with what we think happened, and then we run with that. And to your point, Nisa, it was inaccurate. It was, yes, it was difficult. It was challenging. You had to do a lot in your business to pivot. Your kids were home. All, like, to your point, that actually happened. And there was all these other things that happened as well. So what I would encourage is you start there. You start in January at the beginning of whatever year you're completing. This happens to be the year 2022. And what I like to do, if you are a planner and you set goals every year, that's even better. If you don't, no worries. You can go through your calendar and just look to see, what was I doing? Where was I going? Who did I meet? What do my pictures tell me? What are the stories of my pictures? And what you're going to be capturing through the review of your calendar or your photo album is you're going to be capturing, what were the things that I accomplished? What were the wins that I had? What were the things that were exciting? What were the things that had me feel good? So you want to capture all those great things that you experienced throughout the year. Mm-hmm. That's one piece. Mm-hmm. Then you want to go back and you want to look at, okay, what were the things that were hard? What were the challenges? What were the unexpected things that were impacting me?
And may I ask you the question? I know you're a big advocate for journaling. Would you recommend for the wins, the accomplishments, the gratitudes, we write this down, and then same thing for the disappointments?
Yes, you're writing all of this down. And this is what's interesting. I give this experience individually to everybody to figure out how they want to do it. You could either go through and do all the positive experiences throughout the entire year, January through December. I know we're not in December yet, but
yeah.
And then you can do the next piece of it, which is look at all the things that were impactful, disappointments, things that you didn't expect, things that you didn't get accomplished. What I find to be most powerful, and this just happened naturally, is doing them simultaneously. Because what I have found throughout this exercise is that typically out of some disappointment comes some win, some learning, some silver lining. Or sometimes out of an accomplishment, it creates another challenge that I'm working on. So the accomplishments and the challenges and disappointments, they're pretty integrated. You'll see that as you go through the exercise.
Interesting you say that, because just the other day I was doing an exercise on like my dreams, and I was kind of so blocked and shut off emotionally in that way that I couldn't even, I was like, I can't even think of what a dream is, because last time I had that dream, it didn't happen. So why would I continue to pursue it? I was feeling pretty jaded. And it was what allowed me to open that window to the dreams again, was actually writing down what frustrated me. Which said, if I can knock out this thing over here that really frustrates me and makes me mad that I want to change, then it opens the door for that thing that I want to be able to pursue and dream and chase after. So it was really a fascinating experience, much to what you're saying, that they really do go hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely. And what you're talking about too, Nisa, was a in the moment clean the slate for that particular dream, right? Some judgment that you had about why you couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, right? And then you kind of got a little bump in the head, and you're like, wait a second. Yeah. So that is a result of looking at both the positive and the negative for the year. Look, we're human beings. We're not here to have a party every day. We're actually here to grow and learn. And so without those negative, disappointing, discouraging, frustrating moments in our life, we will not have opportunity for growth and learning. So this is just actually being able to step back and reveal that from a factual perspective. What actually happened, right? Yeah. So you go through your calendar for the whole year and you identify pluses, minuses, wins, disappointments. And then the next step is to look at what's unfinished. What did I say I wanted to do this year that didn't get done? That'll show up maybe in the disappointments, right? Or what did I hope to have happen that I didn't really pursue? Or what showed up for me throughout the year that I didn't really have a goal, but then it was like, oh, I want to do that, and maybe it's unfinished. This is actually one of the most important pieces of this exercise. Identify your unfinished business. So for example, I have a piece of unfinished business. I had every intention to redo my website this year. It didn't happen. It's unfinished. And with every piece of unfinished business, I go back and I look, I go, okay, is this still important to me? Is this something I want to recommit to and take into my next year? Yes. I need to redo my website. Bingo. That's going into the next year. And then there are some items that are unfinished that are no longer important to me for one reason or another. They either lost their energy or it didn't really happen. And I was like, that's just not important to me anymore.
Or because you grew and changed in the last year. Like that thing just isn't relevant. It's not of interest to you anymore because you're a different person than you were this time last year when you said that. And that was one of the biggest ahas to me, and really visually. And you and I talked about this last year, which is like, we're always like, we want to be able to enter the new year feeling light, not by carrying the weight of this past year with us. And this unfinished business part of it really does allow us to only carry with us what we want to carry with us, not what we feel like we have to because we said we wanted to do it last year, but we actually never completed it. Maybe we don't want to complete it after all, and that's okay.
That's right. And it's giving yourself permission. And I don't think, first of all, we don't do it consciously. We just like drag it all with us. This is giving you an opportunity to get it out of your head onto paper and then choosing.
Love that.
And you get to choose. You know, there is a great little, I don't know what it's called, a parable or a story about these two monks that were walking along the riverside. And there was a woman that was trying to cross the river but could not. So one of the monks went, picked up the woman, helped her cross the river, and set her on the other side. And then he and his monk partner kept walking all day long. And the monk, at the end of the day, that did not carry the woman, said to the other monk, I can't believe you carried that woman. That's against our rules. It's not okay. I can't, he was very upset about it. And the monk who carried the woman looked at him and said, well, my dear friend, I picked up the woman and set her down on the other side of the river. You've been carrying her all day long.
So good.
And that's what we do. That's what we do with our stuff, right? We just keep throwing it in our bag, throwing it over, right? And I would say 95% of the stuff in the bag is unconscious. We don't even realize we've stuck it in there.
Yeah, and I think about I hate to use this example, but I feel like it's just the kind of common example. I don't know. It's that goal that we think we're supposed to be pursuing, or dream that we've always said, no, that's going to happen. And we are not any longer in love with that goal or that dream, but we've been carrying it with us all this time. It feels almost irresponsible to not keep carrying it with us, but there's only so much we can carry because at one time we said this is what we want to do. But
yes. And I also think it's a sense, I don't want people to feel like it's a sense of failure. It's not. It's a choice. And, Nisa, you said it really well, is that if we're taking it with us and it's not something that we are committed to, that our heart's in, it actually keeps us from putting our heart into the things that we really actually want to do. And then here's the other piece. This is super important. This also might provide us an opportunity to forgive ourselves. If we're holding any judgment about something that we didn't do for whatever reason, we, one, get to forgive ourselves for judging that. And two, choosing, does this serve me to take it into the next year? Or can I be complete that it's incomplete? And I'm going to tell you something. If you will really focus on saying and crossing off the list of the things that that's unfinished, that you're not excited about, that you don't get super happy about, take it off the list.
If it's not a hell yes, like Brene Brown said, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And when you give yourself permission to do that, the words that you used were light. There's so much freedom in that.
It is
So
liberating.
it's
That's
liberating. It's liberating. And then also you have a beginning list of things that you want to include in next year's goals. And it's a clean list. It's a clean list. So accomplishments and disappointments by looking at your calendar, writing down unfinished business and crossing off the things that are no longer important to you and calling it complete. And then holding a list of things that you want to move in. Like on my list will be my website. And then here's the next thing. Now comes that you have some of the space. Now you have room to give gratitude. What are you grateful for this year? What, not just for what happened, people, situations, learnings, lessons. So expressing gratitude is so important.
Even being grateful that you didn't actually like go after that thing that you've decided to let go of because it really wasn't that important after all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is where you can really reflect on lessons, right?
Oh,
Look, as I said earlier, we did not come to planet Earth to have it easy. We didn't.
Wait, repeat, because because here's the thing. I think that is the lie that we have all believed. And
we love to be comfortable.
Well, I have said it so many times, like, why can't I just want to arrive. I just want to feel like I don't have to, like that every day isn't a new like a start of something hard and new. Like I just want a break. I've said that so many times. But then I remember, hold on, sister. That's not the promise. That's not the guarantee. That's not even really the dream. I mean, once it's there, there's always something else, right? I mean, we all want to be able to feel accomplished in what we're doing. We all like to arrive, to get there. But I know this in theory, but my brain doesn't always wrap around. We aren't called for comfort. It is always about growth and learning and growth and learning and growth. And dang it, I remember my cousin saying this to my aunt years ago when she was like, well, it just builds character. He was like, I'm sick of building character. Right. And just think that when you reach a certain age, like, well, I shouldn't have to have these hardships. And it's when those thoughts, I've noticed this for me, enter my brain, that's when I have to just like back away and go, hold on a second. Like check yourself at the door. Nobody said that just because you're 45 years old and you've been in this profession for this long, or Russell the same, 54 years old, 53, been in this profession for this long, that it's not supposed to not be hard. Or
yeah, and I would say the more we evolve, sometimes the lessons get bigger because we have more tools, we have more experience, we have more wisdom, but we also have more peace. And this is analogous to your fitness journey, Nisa. If you think about it, how do you build muscle?
Yeah. Oh, break it down.
You have to break it down, right? And it can be painful and it's hard, right? And then you break it down and then you recover.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because here I am in the business where that is how we grow. That's the only way we grow. We break it down, build up, break it down, build up.
Yeah.
So why in the world would I think that work, or like a career, a profession, parenting, whatever, is like unlike any other muscle?
That's right. That's exactly right. It's and it's so good because I may remind you that energetically and as a human being, but good gracious, you remind me of it every time I'm in your class. It's painful.
It is painful.
But I on the other side of it, I feel great, and I'm building strength. So it all goes together. So once you've gone through your calendar and you've looked at your accomplishments, your disappointments, your unfinished business, what do I want to take with me? What do I want to leave behind and call complete? What am I grateful for? Who am I grateful for? The last thing, and this is the bonus. This is bonus extra credit honors work optional, is there any communication that I need to have with anybody that I have not had?
That's the unfinished business.
It's completing the circle of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say, is there anything that I need to say to somebody or have a conversation about, I am not encouraging to go let somebody have it.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I really wanted to give it to them because they really upset me. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, what I'm talking about, is there anything that I need to be accountable for in my relationships that I need to clear up, that I need to be aware of if I've had impacts? One of the most incredible questions I think to ask other people, and I'm going to say warning, warning, warning. Do not ask this question if you can't hear the feedback.
Oh, so good. Okay.
Here's the most powerful question you can ask somebody.
Oh.
Is there anything you've been trying to tell me that I'm not listening to? Is there anything you've been trying to tell me that I'm not hearing?
Okay, so when I think there's probably not a soul who's listening to this or that will listen to it, that when you first started this, the relationship unfinished business communication part, that anybody listening thought, like I did, even though we've done this exercise before and I know how this goes, thought, yeah, I need to talk to that person about this thing. But it's not, to your point, it's just the reverse, because we have impact. The way we, consciously or unconsciously, we have impact. And to ask that question, ouch, but how off-putting. And if we all entered into relationships with that kind of mindset, whether it be professional or personal, if there's something that I haven't done that, or something I can help, I can do better, let me know. Wow.
Yeah. And also, you get to choose. You can hear them, and look, it's their experience. It's not the whole truth of who you are. Right? But it is their experience. So all we have to do is validate their experience. And they may have a request of us that we would be unwilling to fulfill, and that's okay. You can just say, thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that's extra bonus, extra credit, gold star, gold star, gold star.
That's like, oh my God.
Like, because there are some people that really want to go dive deeper, and that's how you do it. Right?
Yeah.
So
good.
When you complete all of that, then there actually is a declaration.
Okay.
Because I think this is so important to say it from our head out of our mouth. Okay. And the declaration is, the year 2022, or whatever year it might be, is complete. Or if you want to write it. And I want to say something about doing this exercise too, on the computer versus pen to paper.
Okay.
I would highly recommend pen to paper. It is a very different experience to be more tactile, and putting pen to paper actually moves things differently than if you're typing on the computer. So that would be another little tip I would give for this exercise, is actually writing it, and look, I'm having to work on my handwriting these days too. Sometimes it's just not legible. So it's a good exercise.
And that's okay, because you're the only one who has to read it. That's
correct. So what this does, Nisa, is when you've completed the year, I would walk away, right? That's a session. I would just walk away, just let some of that come. I would also say that it's okay if the next day or a week later or whatever, you're like, oh, I forgot. You can always go back and add to it, right? Because your brain will be thinking. It doesn't mean it's over. If it's not over, you can keep clearing, is what you would be doing. And what that actually does is it sets up the space for you now to design your next year. And one of the things I like to do with my clients is I have them pay attention to the design of their year by being present to their core values. because our core values drive our intentions, they drive our dreams, they drive our behavior. And so that would be the next thing that we would do, is to encourage people to reflect on their core values, reflect on the information that they have about themselves. It might be an Enneagram number, it might be a personality test. We use core values, and really consider that when you start building your design for the next year.
So on that note, we will be doing another podcast on core values. So if you're unaware of what your core values are, you're definitely going to want to listen to the core values podcast, because Martha Lynn will take us through that exercise. That was one of the most eye-opening, epiphany-like exercises I've ever done. I thought I knew myself until I learned about my core values, and then I really got to know myself. So that is coming in another podcast. But would you recommend, before we close this off, would you recommend putting this in a journal? Does it matter? Do we need to burn some of the disappointments and like send them off? Is there any kind of recommendation around what we do with this information?
So that is a great question. And I'm going to say, I think it's very personal in nature. What I have done over the years is I've kept the whole thing together, just kind of as a reminder. Sometimes I look back at the disappointments to see if I'm repeating them. Did I really clear that out? But I also like to acknowledge what happened. If it is a particularly hard thing that I went through, I might journal about that to release it separately, and then burn it to release it completely.
Can you talk real fast about that? The energy, the change of energy, or what happens energetically, and why when we write things down. Because you're always encouraging me, and I always am like, well, I don't know why I didn't think of that. You remind me of this all the time. It's just not intuitive or second nature for me. I don't know why, but you always encourage me. Nisa, I need you to spend some time writing that down and getting it out of your body. Why is that?
So what you're actually talking about is free-form writing. It's very different from journaling.
Okay.
Free-form writing is not journaling. Journaling is reflection, sharing your dreams, sharing your thoughts, maybe sharing just kind of the what's happened. Free-form writing is really helpful when you are experiencing some challenging feelings. Upset, anger, stress, anxiety, fear, frustration, irritation, annoyance. So any of those real powerful negative emotions, sometimes if we don't process them, they get stuck in our body. And then creates a block, and we can't design what we want to have happen next. We can't see because it's blocked. So a free-form writing exercise is where you sit down, I would say for a minimum of 15 minutes, light that candle, do it privately, and you write whatever comes to your mind about what's happening. It could be about upset with another human being. It could be an upset about a situation. It could be upset about what's happening in the world, whatever's triggering you. And you write for a minimum of 15 minutes, but no more than 2 hours. It's a long time to write.
Well, and
but I noticed
when I do this sometimes I will even judge it. It doesn't have to be like, I feel this way today. So I'm like, you know, like, go for it.
No, this is intended to really get it out. And I will say that there have been times where what I'm writing is not even legible.
Yeah.
Because that's the energy. Putting the pen to paper and getting out of what's in your head. Now, here's the key, Nisa. The reason why you have permission to write whatever it is you want to write, what really comes to your head, right? The thing that you would never say out loud. You give yourself permission to write it, because when you're finished, you burn it.
That's the one. Okay.
It's destroyed. It gets destroyed, because really what you're writing is not the whole truth about that person or that situation. It's just the experience you're having. And you got to get it out of your body. And that's a very powerful way to do it. Then you burn it. Nobody ever sees it. And why it's so important to burn. One, burning is very ritualistic. It releases. But two, you really want to get out what you're thinking. and you never want anybody to read it because it would be misunderstood, right? It is a very, very powerful exercise, and it's very cleansing. Gosh, I mean, if you've had a really crappy year, do a freeform writing on the crappy year.
Yeah, totally.
Right? This year was blah. I didn't
Yeah.
like it. It was hard. And then you burn it safely outside.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a friend stay in my house while we were out of town one weekend. And I actually have a little ceramic pot outside my office door on the patio that has ashes in it. And she told me after she stayed, she's like, oh, I was walking around. She goes, and then I saw your burn pile. And she goes, and I was kind of tempted to see if there was any little piece of paper that I could read. She's like, I was a little afraid I might be on one of those pieces of paper. I was like, no.
You have that though. That is such a, just, I don't know. It normalizes it, right? That it's normal to have these feelings. And then when I do, I need to just get it out of my body, put it on paper and burn that sucker. Be done with it.
And that you can do that every week, all year long. And it's also cleaning the slate.
Mm-hmm.
It is a, it's just like exercise, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. It's the same thing. You just kind of keep releasing it. And it's the same experience that you would have with this clean the slate exercise, right? Clearing it all, like swabbing the deck.
Mm-hmm. And so I will say, as we wrap this up, this exercise, and I may be repeating myself, is so common sense, but it is not at all intuitive. It's just not the way I was ever taught to. The way I always enter a new year or end a year is like celebrate holidays and then rush into the new year and set all these goals again. And it's just this flood of emotion, this flood of adrenaline, this flood of hopefulness, which is all great. But there's I've left a dust of, I don't know what I've left behind me, but it's like just this mess. And this is just so, soothing and feels healthy. It's calming. It's peaceful. Energetically, it's lovely. And so thank you for teaching me to do this and reminding me every year that we need to do this, because somehow I always forget, even though it's brilliant and necessary. And
well, Nisa, you just said something that made me think as another consideration for doing this exercise now. Even though we have a whole nother month for the end of the year. One of the things that I think is really possible is doing this in the next couple of weeks so that you're clear, but you can also set your intention for how you want to finish the year. Right? How do I want to finish this year? Like, here's how it would go automatically, but how can I be intentional about doing all the things that I'm expected to do or that I've committed to doing, and doing it in a way that it's self-care and peaceful?
Well, I kind of think it is as important as it is to start well, it is just as, if not more important, to finish well, especially as we finish the year in a very high emotion state, given that it's the holidays. And of all the times, that is the time when we want to feel our best and be our best. And inevitably, we are serving family. We are creating these beautiful moments with and for our family and for our friends. And so if there was a better time to feel our best, I don't know that there is one.
Yes. And, let me give you just a really quick example of what I'm thinking about and planning is that typically I work all the way up until the week of Christmas, but then I take the whole week after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's off to have that recharge. But I'm so tired, I don't really get the recharge. So this year, being mindful about my completion exercise, I'm already organizing my calendar so that I take one work day off a week, if possible. So I'm already starting to set myself up for some support in December. So that when I actually get to the week that I take off, I can enjoy it and not be so blown out.
Yeah, you're not sleeping, resting on your back the whole time. Totally.
That's right.
I think that is something that the majority of women experience, just pure fatigue and exhaustion.
And it depends on the season of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have children at home, you're around their schedule. If you have family, if you have older parents you're caring for, there's always something. And if we are mindful and think ahead, there are little moments of time that we can give ourselves to help support us.
Well, and I know we're going to close this out and we could keep talking forever. But what I hear from that is just because you've done it one way for all these years doesn't mean it has to be the same way moving forward. We always, and you've taught me this, we always have a choice to make. And that's what part of this cleaning the slate exercise also helps us do, is it helps us to make a decision moving forward. Do we want to take this with us? Do I want my work schedule to be the same? Is it serving me? So thank you. It makes so
You're
much
welcome.
sense.
You're welcome.
That was just wonderful. And Martha Lynn, tell everyone listening about your coaching business. And if they wanted to get in touch with you to do some of their own coaching, which I would advise anybody to, how could they get hold of you?
Thank you for asking. Yeah. So, I have a website, which you all now know I need to redo. It's time to update. But you can find me on marthalynnmangum.com. All one word, marthalynnmangum.com. Or you could certainly email me, marthalynn@marthalynnmangum.com. And reach me that way.
Your contact will be in the information of this podcast so that people can directly link to you that way too.
Yeah. And, I invite everybody to send us feedback if you've done your completion exercise and also to stay tuned for the core values exercise so that then how we're going to dive into part 2 so that you can design your year.
Love it. And there's so much more. I mean, there's so much wisdom that I've obtained from you that just can be shared. So this is one of a gazillion podcasts that we're going to have with Martha. So thank you, Martha, for sharing your wisdom and your coaching. And I look so forward to our Core Values podcast coming around the corner.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Oh, one last question. This exercise does not have to be at the very end of the year. If I need to do this whenever, right? Like we can't get so stuck in our head that it has to be a certain way that, let's say I can't do it until January. That's okay.
Totally. You can do it at any time. You could even do it quarter by quarter or month by month, right? Yeah. It depends on what works for you. But yes, if you're not able to get to this till January or February, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It's available anytime.
Yeah, sadly that's how my brain works. It's all or nothing. It's either in December or it doesn't happen. So for those people listening who think that way too, you can do it whenever.
Or you're finally getting to this podcast and it's July of next year. That's fine too.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Martha Lynn.
Thank you, Nisa. I appreciate you.
Hi, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to the Power of We podcast. And if you happen to be in Austin or San Diego, we would love for you to join our fitness community. But if not, I would love for you to join me and our at-home fitness community. Most importantly, thank you for being part of the Power of We family.